Okay, look at this tiny, almost incomprehensible number on the screen. What does that actually represent? It's not a microscopic measurement, it's not an atomic weight, it's actually an execution time. A 16th decimal execution in the modern financial market. Just think about that for a second. If you steal a penny from 1,000,000 people, you're just a thief, right? But if you can figure out how to steal a billionth of a cent from trillions of transactions, well, you basically become a god of the modern market.
So, welcome to this explainer of Steve Potter's absolutely brilliant novella, Sherlock. In this version of the story, the world's greatest detective isn't out there hunting for muddy footprints or bloodstains in Victorian alleyways. Instead, he's hunting digital signatures hidden deep inside high-frequency trading algorithms. Today, we're going to break down exactly how a modern Sherlock Holmes navigates this insane, chaotic world of massive server farms, dark pools, and high-leverage chaos, using absolutely nothing but pure logic and stoicism. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The Quantitative Detective.
So Holmes is working as a quantitative analyst, and he spots this deliberate mathematical rhythm hiding inside these totally chaotic market flash crashes. The first major crime scene we look at is a massive temporal heist at an AWS partner firm over in Sydney. And the villain here, a rogue former CTO named Aurelius Adler, he isn't breaking in with brute force. He's actually weaponized time itself. Adler injected this tiny, practically invisible piece of code, a sidecar, into the firm's architecture. When a huge trade is ordered, this code copies the packet, executes a countertrade in Singapore, and just vanishes. And it does all of this before the original order even leaves the local network. I mean, the guy's literally front-running the speed of light. It's wild.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Dark Pool Trap. To catch a thief who steals time, Holmes ends up tracking Adler's hardware to this freezing, heavily guarded warehouse down in Melbourne, Australia. But this isn't just a warehouse, it's a dark pool. Now, we've probably all heard of these private financial exchanges where massive institutional trades happen completely off the public radar, right? But Adler has taken it way further. He's directly tapped his own custom server into the dark pool's hardware cross-connect. He's essentially building a synthetic arbitrage loop, buying gold and shorting silver at the exact same time to permanently break their mathematical correlation. If he pulls this off, every algorithmic hedge fund model on the planet will collapse in this entirely manufactured black swan event.
But Holmes doesn't even try to outmuscle Adler's raw volume. Instead, he hacks the execution mechanism itself. Right as the London market opens, Holmes floods Adler's algorithm with these trillionth of a cent dust orders, which completely clogs the processor. And then, boom, he drops the hammer. He executes a massive 100-to-1 leveraged mirror trade. Literally, every single time Adler buys, Holmes perfectly mirrors it with a sell, turning Adler's own encrypted wallet against him. It instantly forces the entire market into this perfect, frozen equilibrium and completely vaporizes Adler's margins in a matter of seconds.
But of course, Adler is not the kind of guy who just gives up. The second his margin hits zero, it triggers this terrifying physical dead man switch. He doesn't just wipe a hard drive to hide his tracks. No, he physically reverses the data center's massive cooling fans. This pushes the huge lithium-ion backup batteries into a literal thermal runaway. Suddenly, the warehouse starts melting down all around Holmes, becoming a toxic, ticking time bomb. Now, while Watson is screaming for them to get out of there, Holmes displays just the ultimate stoic calm. He knows Adler's servers hold a shadow ledger, about 800 gigabytes of highly encrypted data that absolutely proves the massive fraud. So as the concrete floor is literally fracturing from the intense heat, Holmes plugs directly into the burning server rack. Using the exact same AWS speed that Adler weaponized, he triggers a cross-region replication, beaming all that evidence to a secure cold vault in Virginia, literally mere seconds before the servers explode into white-hot sparks.
Which brings us to Section 3, sabotaging the physical gold.
So Holmes knows the game isn't actually over yet, because in the world of high finance, a digital manipulation means absolutely nothing without a physical settlement. And that physical reality, it's playing out over at the Perth Mint, which sets up this incredibly fascinating philosophical clash. See, Adler wants to expose the digital illusion of modern wealth by secretly sneaking tungsten into a massive 10-ton pour physical gold bullion. His whole objective is to prove that all our wealth is hollow and trigger a total collapse of global trust. Holmes, on the other hand, relies entirely on physical reality. He knows that an algorithm is basically just a story we tell ourselves, but thermodynamics is a universal truth. At the Mint, the automated pouring software is completely locked down, and Holmes cannot stop the molten gold from falling. And, unfortunately, you can't hack gravity. But you can hack temperature. He manages to override the cryogenic nitrogen system, instantly dropping the casting molds to minus 196 degrees Celsius. So when that liquid sunfire hits those freezing molds, it triggers a catastrophic thermal shock. It completely atomizes the ceramics and flash freezes the gold into this totally worthless, untradeable pile of industrial slag. It's brilliant. Adler can't exactly expose a fake gold bar if the bar doesn't even exist anymore.
Alright, let's look at Section 4, the recursive worm. So Adler is defeated, but Holmes quickly realizes Adler was really just the architect for a much bigger financier hiding out deep in the Swiss Alps. Down in an ultra-secure underground vault, we finally meet the modern Professor Moriarty, and the contrast in their motives here is just staggering. Adler wanted exposure. He essentially wanted to burn the whole system down to teach humanity a lesson. But Moriarty, he simply wants influence. He bankrolled this entire global fraud just so he could own the uncertainty. He wants to hold the secrets of those hollow vaults so he can become the invisible king of the shadow ledger. And it's right here that Moriarty drops this incredibly chilling revelation. He says, to build a truly decentralized future, the old monoliths must be rendered into ash. Turns out, Moriarty played Holmes beautifully. Remember when Holmes heroically beamed that 800 gigabytes of evidence to Virginia, while Moriarty had a Trojan horse hidden right inside of it? Holmes unknowingly delivered a recursive worm that is now actively, right in that moment, deleting global AWS infrastructure. It's systematically turning the digital foundations of hospitals, banks, and power grids completely into ash.
And Holmes, he is trapped in an impossible situation. Moriarty's Swiss vault is basically a massive Faraday cage. It's wrapped in this high-intensity electromagnetic interference shield. Absolutely zero wireless signals can go in or out. The global digital blackout is cascading, and Holmes literally has no way to broadcast a digital kill switch to stop this contagion that he accidentally unleashed on the world.
So how exactly do you circumvent the world's most advanced digital security? Well, with a purely mechanical hack. A Faraday cage blocks electromagnetic waves, sure, but it does not block physical vibrations. Holmes forces his laptop's cooling fan to oscillate, creating a mechanical harmonic resonance. It's essentially physical Morse code. This vibration travels straight down the actual physical power lines of the elevator shaft, sending a low-frequency pulse all the way to the local power substation miles away, and it intentionally trips the massive breakers, cutting power to the entire valley.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the final ledger.
That brilliant, completely analog hack achieves the impossible. By dropping the power, Holmes knocks the vault completely offline for exactly 3 seconds. Now, in the lightning-fast realm of the 16th decimal, 3 seconds is an absolute eternity. When the power surges back on, the recursive worm is forced to re-authenticate, and it instantly hits a quarantine boundary that Holmes had set up locally. The AWS backbone is saved. And as Holmes and Watson finally head home, the core themes, what the story calls the Stoics' ledger, become super clear. First, you cannot control market volatility. You can only control your reaction to it. Second, always seek physical truth over digital illusion. And third, integrity is the light, while influence is merely the shadow.
Potter's novella really isn't just a financial thriller. It's basically a mirror held right up to our hyper-connected, incredibly high-speed lives. It really leaves us to ponder this. How do you navigate the 16 decimals of distraction in your own digital reality? In a world that is constantly screaming for your attention and trying to pull you into the chaos of the unobservable, what is the solid, physical truth that anchors you? It's something to think about for sure. Thanks so much for joining me on this